Thanks for joining us for another episode of Already Won, a Sports Friends podcast. Each week, Coach Ben and Coach Kyle share their insights, interview special guests, and offer some extra words of wisdom. The victory is ours, because we've already won.
Hello and welcome to the Already Won podcast. I am your host, Ben Wildman, aka The Wildcat, and I'm here with the Mad Dog, Kyle Epps.
I'm back for more. Hey, Ben, the Olympics have started. I think the U.S. has qualified. Don't get me wrong now. Don't tell me anything else. I know they qualified.
What do you think they're going to win? Do you think they're going to win?
In it to win. They're going to win all the gold medals. How many are there? 100 and something? They're going to win everything.
You're going to be top of that Olympic table.
Running, jogging, breakdancing, kayaking, climbing. They're going to get gold in everything.
There's 3v3 basketball, right? Are you guys in that?
I'm playing.
What about football? Football. Did you know, Mad Dog, that it wasn't
American football?
No, soccer. Did you know that the last time USA won in football was 1904, and there was only 3 teams that competed in it? But you guys won it 1904. 2024, are you guys going to win gold?
Are we in it? Do we qualify? I know the women might have a chance, but those men, there's not a lot of hope. Now, basketball, we're talking, well, it's loaded now, I guess, the basketball. If you're watching the pool play now, it's like you got Greece that just got in. You got the France, obviously the host. You got Canada looking good. I mean, the U.S. is going to be,
Well, they had a scare. They just got through South Sudan by 1 point. LeBron
wow, that was
rescue them. At the end. Yeah. There's loads of sport, going on, Carl. But Mad Dog, whether you're going to watch it or not, I'm sure a lot of people will watch it. But you need to remember, when it's all said and done, and the fat lady sung, we already won. So, guys, remember that we have the victory. So, whether you're a player, a fan, or a coach, this podcast is for you. And this week, Mad Dog, we've got a great guest. We have Lance Brown, who's been chaplain to Vanderbilt football. He set up his own ministry, WhoUWith Ministries, and he's someone who's had a vast array of sports ministry experience, from working with FCA to set up his own ministry, to expanding, to getting chaplains into teams, professional teams like the Tennessee Titans, and working with some top coaches, right, Mad Dog? What kind of coaches has he kind of worked with and mentored?
Well, he's working, it started with football, American football, but then he's obviously got his wife working with basketball. Apparently she's a pretty big thing in Belmont University with basketball. Maybe some records there. I don't know. We'll hear about that. But, he's got the baseball team. He's got a lot of great stories. I'm hoping to hear from him, the impact that sports ministry, the work he's doing with athletes and coaches.
So good. And he's graduated from Belmont University in 1991. And he's also an ordained minister. He's married to Amy, and they've got 4 children. And so, he's got a great life experience and also wisdom from his ministry experience as well.
Okay, man, before you introduce him, let's just make sure we got it right. Our global leader, Bob Kramer, has recommended him. He's a friend. Knew him when his son played football, I guess, at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee.
That's right. Well, he's telling his friends and his friends' friends that he already won. He's only doing what you're telling him to do.
That's true. Nothing about the Carolina Panthers, though.
But he's already won. It doesn't matter. He firmly knows he already won. There's a higher victory that he's clinging on to. So that is great. So with that in mind, let's meet this week's guest. All right, let's welcome to the podcast this week our guest, Lance Brown. Welcome.
Hey, glad to be here, guys. Thank you.
He says that now. Glad to be. Well, okay, yeah. We're glad to have you.
Yeah, take it easy on me. I don't know what to expect with you guys.
Yeah, we don't know what Bob has told you about what's going on, but I'm the calm one. Ben's the wild one. That's AKA Wildcat. I'm just
I noticed y'all's subtitles there, so I'm trying to figure out what I'm dealing with.
Oh, you'll figure it out. We've got these nicknames for a long time now. So yeah, the Wildcat, the Mad Dog, and have you got a nickname, Lance, or what would people call you normally?
Well, my nickname, I guess everybody in athletics has nicknames, but they call me Brother B, and that's so Brother Brown, Brother B. I can't. My wife has a lot of nicknames for me, but but I don't. Usually that's when she's mad at me, so I don't want to mention them. So
yeah, we don't have a beep button either. We don't have.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, we gave a little introduction, so now we're going to do a little rapid fire question. All right. So these are either or. You're right. No wrong answer. The right answer is whatever comes out of your mouth. You can't change your answer.
I feel like I'm playing Jeopardy, but I'm ready.
You're ready. Okay. First one, tea or coffee?
Oh, wow. I don't drink coffee, so tea.
Oh, man, Ben. All right, vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
Okay. Sweet tea or Arnold Palmer?
Ooh, probably sweet tea.
Okay, all right. And it is for the NCAA, the National Collegiate Athletic Association, NIL or no NIL?
Oh, no NIL.
Okay, he's a no NIL. Okay, and the last one. Now this, hopefully doesn't need explanation, but music. Do you like the Hank Williams style or the Hank Williams Jr. style?
Probably Hank Williams Jr.
All right,
that's that maybe so.
All right, Ben, how did he do?
Yeah, it's good. I think a lot of people are going to be Googling and YouTubing what you just said there about music. So I'll be doing that after the podcast. So, yeah, no, it's great. Well, Lance, look, really thank you for your time. We look forward to get to know you a bit more and dive into your rich ministry experience. But first, our podcast is called Already Won. What does that phrase mean to you?
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting title. And when I saw it, like in competition in athletics, it's all about the win. And our identity is a lot of times wrapped up in what the scoreboard says about us. But when we talk about our lives, we talk about our faith, living out for Christ, regardless of whether we have a victory in life or whether we've had defeats, our identity is wrapped up when what God's already done, not what we're doing. And so I don't know, that's a big answer around, but honestly, when I saw when you guys were inviting me and I saw the name of this podcast, that's a lot of what just kind of triggered was like, yeah, we already have one. Even if we don't feel like we're winning in life, we already have one because he's already won for us. And so I thought it was pretty creative. Getting to know you two a little bit, there's no chance either one of y'all came up with that name. So I don't know who did that. I don't know if y'all had a marketing situation come about, but just in the little time I've been on here, I'm like, no, there's no chance they were that creative.
He's not going to throw Bob under the bus, but he's going to throw, okay, I guess, all right.
He knows us pretty well already. There was 2 songs that came out, right, Cal? But yeah, we heard it. It was around sports ministry, and we did not come up with it ourselves for sure, but it's a great metaphor for sports ministry. So yeah, here we are. Yeah.
I don't know if how I answered is what y'all were thinking with this, but that's kind of what it means.
No, it's great. You hit it because that's what it is. It's whatever it personally means to you. To some it means something different, but that's great. So maybe share with us, Coach Lance, your journey to coming to faith in Christ. Was it when you were a teenager, even before, or in university?
Yeah. So I grew up in a divorce home. Matter of fact, my dad he cheated on my mom when I was in the womb. So that's kind of how I started life, if you will. Did not grow up in church, and it wasn't until my mom remarried, and she married this guy. He was in the music business in Nashville. Had this kind of crazy Bible, loved to share Jesus with people, but he also smoked weed, and that was an interesting combo. And that was confusing for me. But it was the first time I'd heard about Jesus. But then I was like, but some of this doesn't add up on what I thought this was about. And as I later learned, it doesn't add up. But nonetheless, like it was an entry point, if you will. And then it wasn't. I think between my junior and senior year of high school, I got invited to go to an FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, leadership camp in St. Simons Island, Georgia. And it was there that I solidified who Christ was and realized that other folks had something that I had a head knowledge but not a heart knowledge. And it was there that I felt like I gave my life to Christ, and certainly hadn't lived perfect since then. But that was probably that moment, and that's honestly also why I really got into sports ministry, because I was kind of reborn out of that kind of ministry.
Awesome. It's so good to hear the role of what SCA played in your own, personal journey. But then let's rewind the clock. I think 33 years ago, August 1991, I think, was that when you first kind of came on staff with SCA? Tell us a little bit about that and how you got into sports ministry.
Yeah, it was in August. You're right. And I was coming out of college. I went to Belmont University in Nashville. I got a business degree. I actually thought I was going to go into coaching, and an opportunity opened up for me to come on staff with FCA for $10,000 a year. I look back on that and go, what in the world was I thinking? Lived out of the basement of my folks' house, and just got to work and went to work. And but that's where I kind of started sports ministry and cut my teeth, if you will. And I was on staff with FCA for 10 years here in Nashville before we started WhoUWith Ministries.
And then when did you start working at Vanderbilt University?
Yeah, so there was an overlap there. So I was on staff with FCA for 10 years. The last 6 of those, I got invited in by a walk-on kicker and the quarterback coach at the time at Vanderbilt to, hey, we need somebody to do chapel and do some things like that. And I had also, as God would have it, I got synced up with a guy that's been my mentor now for 30 years, a guy named Ken Smith. He's kind of the granddad of guys that do what I do. He was with Bobby Bowden at Florida State, and been a couple other places. But anyway, he and I had formed a relationship, and then this opportunity came up. And so for the last 6 years I was on staff at FCA, I was already working with the team at Vanderbilt. But as that grew, FCA at that time, they were not structured to put one guy at one place. And so we began at really the summer of 2001. My wife and I began to realize, and let me say this about my wife, it began to be very stressful in our marriage. I was basically kind of like doing 2 jobs. I was traveling with the team on the weekends, and then I had all these schools that I was covering with FCA, and it was just kind of nuts. And it began to be a pretty difficult time in our marriage, to where I had come to a crossroads where I needed to decide, am I going to continue to try to do this and force my marriage to figure it out, or am I going to pick one of these and sacrifice the other because my marriage is more important? And so in the summer of 2001, I resigned from FCA, and we started with nothing. I look back and go, what was that kid thinking? But we started our own nonprofit ministry called WhoUWith Ministries so that I could be with the athletes and coaches at Vanderbilt full time.
I think a lot of coaches will resonate with that, about the sacrifice, the personal sacrifice of travel and the strain it takes. And, certainly missionaries will resonate with the challenge of the low, income and stuff like that. It's a challenge, but you made a step of faith then after 10 years and set up WhoUWith Ministries. Tell us a little bit. You've probably shared a bit why you've done it. I know you became like the spiritual coordinator, right, for Vanderbilt athletic program. What was that like? What kind of things did you do, and how are you kind of supporting athletes, and what does the ministry do?
Yeah. So basically, I'm here all the time. In essence, I feel like I'm here way too much at times, but I'm at every practice, and our ministry's grown, and maybe we'll talk about that somewhat. But our ministry's grown. Like I started with football, but we also I now work with Vanderbilt baseball. We hired a young lady to work with our female athletes, and so the ministry here on campus continued to grow. I am not employed by the university. Everything we do is by invitation and by, but I am, I've been doing this for 20 something years, and we have great relationships within athletics. Matter of fact, our current head coach, I've been doing this so long, our current head coach was a player of mine when I first started doing this. And so, and anyway, we do weekly Bible studies. We just did a thing last night that we've been doing this summer Sunday night series, and we'll have about 30 or 40 athletes come that have been here all summer training, and then we'll do weekly Bible studies, female athletes with Courtney and the guys with me. Obviously, I do a team chapel, but then I do a lot of one-on-one meetings. I do a coach's Bible study, but then I also meet with a lot of our head coaches because I've just kind of been doing this for so long, I guess, and we are a safe place for them to come and just talk through stuff professionally, personally, whatnot.
Were you involved with the kicker, Sarah Fuller, at all? Was she kind of a prodigy in the making?
I was not involved in teaching her how to kick or anything. Sarah was involved in our ministry. She was involved in our girls' Bible study, and with Courtney, and she's a great girl.
Yeah, that was amazing. So Ben, no, she was was she the first female athlete to play on the men's football team?
Yeah,
for sure in the SEC, but I'm not sure if it's all of NCAA. But
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty groundbreaking. So you've expanded to other universities at Middle Tennessee and Belmont, with the Titans as well. So what is that? When did you start to expand the work, and what are you doing at those universities as well?
Yeah, I don't know if either one of you or maybe some folks are familiar, but back in I'm going to show my age even more, but back in the 90s, there was a book called Experiencing God with Henry Blackaby. And in there, he says, he talks about you look for the activity of God, and then you join God where that activity is. And that's kind of been our journey as a ministry. I'm not one to hey, let's go. I'm not always looking to grow and expand and let's go bang on that door until they let us in. It's been more joining God where he is. And so we were just doing ministry here at Vanderbilt, and then I'll walk through it a little bit. Like some female athletes were like, "Well, we want to have a Bible study," so that we brought in somebody that would do our women's ministry, and then we had a coach approach us at Belmont and said, "Hey, I'd like for somebody to do some things with our women's basketball team at Belmont." Well, my wife was an All-American at Belmont. She's the all-time scorer at Belmont, and so she was a natural fit to be able to go over there and do that. And so we hired my wife in a part-time role. I met with one of my board members and said, "How do you feel about us hiring my wife in a part-time role?" And great wisdom here. Just a side note: you can hire your wife, but you can never fire your wife. So that's just a little. Just put that away somewhere. But she works with the female athletes at Belmont. And then the same thing with the Titans. A friend of mine for 25 plus years is a guy named James Mitchell. And James had some opportunities with a couple of NFL teams, but he said, if the door opens up for me to come to the Titans, I want to do it under your ministry. And I was like, okay, I don't know where the funding is going to come from, but we'll figure it out. And so, that was, I guess, 5 years ago now. It's hard to believe. And he's just doing an incredible job over there. And then here, just this in the last 8-9 months, the doors open for us at Middle Tennessee State University. The new head coach there was the head coach at Vanderbilt, is probably one of my closest friends. And he approached us about, hey, I want to get a guy in here doing what you did at Vanderbilt, but doing it with us. And it's a kid I've discipled. He played for Coach Mason. And so it's just a neat fit. And what's cool about that is that they haven't really had somebody there every day. And his name's Cameron Robinson. We call him Cam. And just real quick, Cam started a summer devotional Bible study deal with the guys that are in training. And his first one, he had 55 guys on the team show up, which was incredible. And he's doing an amazing job.
Oh, incredible. So good to hear. Well, we've loved what you've shared so far, Lance, and I find it really interesting how other guests that we've had on talk about similar things. So you mentioned you had a mentor for a long time, the power of having a mentor. You mentioned, you creating these safe spaces for athlete and coaches. It's really interesting you talking about that. If you go on your website, which you can see on the banners below, maybe tell us where you can go for this. But I looked on there and I saw 3 really great words that I think some of our sports friends, coaches would be really interested in. What does this look like? You write down invest, inspire, and impact. So I'm wondering if you could unpack those 3 things a little bit and tell us, how do you invest, how do you inspire, and how do you impact in your ministry?
Yeah, so that's been our kind of mission statement for 20 years probably, and it's a picture of what we do. So I believe that we invest, and what I mean by invest is that we spend time, that we're a relational ministry, and that we are working to earn the right to speak truth. That we're not just going to come in and throw Bibles at people and tell them to turn or burn or whatever, as they say in the South and in the States. But we're more. We want to invest. We want to. So we're going to bring them to our house to eat. We're going to invite them to just different things that may not be as intense as a Bible study, but let them get to know us. I'm going to go where they are. I'm going to go to the athletic facilities and hang out at practice and sit and eat with them. And then the inspire part is kind of that next step of those that begin to engage and want to be involved in our ministry, that we begin to take boys, as far as the young men that I work with, take boys and help them become men, and not just men, but godly men. And so we begin to disciple them. I do a thing on Thursday nights in the fall called, I call it Dirty Dozen. It's now, they call it D12 now, but I handpick about 12 guys on the team, and we go deep every Thursday night, and we do it around a meal. A big part of our ministry is a food budget, because I think Jesus did some of his greatest teaching around meals with the disciples, feeding the 5,000. I mean, there's just a lot of moments where he's sitting around a meal, and there's a disarming about sitting around a meal. But we use those times in our chapel when I speak to the whole team. Those are inspirational times that we're inspiring and calling their hearts, that we're not just speaking to their intellect, but we're speaking to their minds. This is transactional. This is transformative. And so we're speaking for transforming with the gospel. And then that impact part that's where we launch them. Like, and that's what's cool to watch now that we've been doing it for a while, to just see where kids are, and they're not kids anymore, what they're doing in their communities and that kind of thing.
That's great. That's great. I mean, so we've often talked to chaplains from the NBA to Premier League to rugby, and they often share similar stories. It's not that we ask them to share a specific story that we want to focus on, but when they start to share anything from their heart or about the impact that the ministry or their role has made on those lives, it's something like being present, being real, being a listener. Do you have any stories of impact or anything from the athletes or coaches that you can share with us?
I think I'll just tie back into what I kind of finished with that last thing. And that is, what's encouraging now is, as sometimes I talk about me being old. I'm not that old, but this is actually dark. I just do it this way to make it look like I have some kind of wisdom.
You bleach it? That's good.
Yeah. Because maybe it looks like I've got some wisdom.
Me too.
And so, and I'm actually, you can't see it, but I'm shaving this part of my head as well. It's not falling out. It's shaving.
It's biblical.
So yeah. So anyway, I think what I would say about that is the legacy piece that we're beginning to see. Like, when you've been somewhere at the same place for a long time, there is an opportunity to see. And so it's amazing to see, like, from a coaching standpoint, we have a player, I officiated his wedding. I discipled him. He's now the defense coordinator at Virginia Tech. Another kid, same kind of deal. His wedding, and discipled him for 4 years he was here. He's the head strength coach at Virginia. A coach that was in my coach's Bible study forever. There's several of these, but like, one's the offense coordinator at Virginia, one's the offense coordinator at Utah, one's the offensive line coach at Wisconsin. There's just some cool. So, like, the net, if you will, is kind of there. And in the growing world of college athletics, where now not only are the coaches very mobile, but the players are very mobile, we've had to pivot a little bit in our mindset as a ministry that we don't have 3 to 4 or 5 years to pour into these young men. We may only have them for a year, and they jump in the portal. And so our mindset is now becoming more the sending ministry. Let's equip them, because they may go somewhere else. And in that vein, I got a young man who was 3 years involved in our ministry. He's, I think, fixing to get named as one of the captains at Central Florida. Another one is right now he's leading candidate to be the starting quarterback at TCU. And so I think that's how I would answer that, is maybe that's not inspiring stories, but it's just, and maybe that's just selfish on my part. It's just kind of cool to see things, going broader than I ever thought it would when I started this. I didn't even know if we'd make it, the first 6 months. And so.
Yeah, it's awesome that you stepped out in faith, didn't have the funding, and look at everything that you've done now, the longevity, like you say. is so powerful. Now, Lance, you've shared some great wisdom already. I love a quote. So you've said, look for the activity of God, then join it. You've said things like earn the right to speak truth. You encourage us to go to Bob Kramer and ask us for a bigger food budget, which is great. And the other thing you said around, the mind is transactional and the heart is transforming. Now, there's a lot of great wisdom there, but you've also, let's just pivot slightly, set up Masterpiece Coaching. So what is that? And tell us a little bit about that and where people can go, because there's some great wisdom there. And, why was that set up and what does it offer?
Yeah, so with Masterpiece Coaches, that was something I had some men kind of approach me and say, hey, how can we take some of the things you've been doing with coaches primarily and help more coaches, more places, any sport, any level, that kind of thing. And we went all over the place. Maybe you'll do Zooms and you'll just get coaches to schedule. But what I know about coaches is their schedules are all over the place. And so we just began to talk through that. I personally didn't think anybody would want to care about hearing anything I got to say, but apparently maybe there are, and I do have, I say this very humbly, but I do have wisdom. But let me define what wisdom is. Wisdom is surviving your own stupidity. That's what wisdom is. And so I've survived some stupidness. And so, and if I can help some others in marriage and different things. And so Masterpiece Coaches is a convenient way for coaches to maybe get some digital coaching, if you will, on their own schedule. So if you go to the website, which is masterpiececoaches.com, you can see, and we've been blessed to have some significant coaches endorse this deal. And so in there right now, what's in there right now, our plan long term is to continue to add content, but you have 3 different sessions in there. You have an 8-session deal that we've developed called the 8 H's, and it's whether you're a sports chaplain or you're a coach trying to connect with your position players or a head coach trying to develop your leaders. These are 8 H's of connecting at a deeper level with your players. Who's their hero? What's the biggest hurt they've ever had? What's their history? Who's their honey? Talk about their girlfriend, or and for some they're married. Their habits. So it's these H's, and we walk coaches through how to have a session where they learn those things about a player, and so that's really some really good stuff there. We do another session's 3 lies that every man buys. That the lies that we buy about ourselves and about our character, or how we'll compromise in subtle ways. And then we put in there for coaches a 9-session deal on how do you navigate marriage on a coaching schedule and the demands of coaching. And the way I try to describe it is nothing will be right at the field house if nothing's right at the house. And so you got to get the home right, and then the field house will take care of itself. But so in essence, that's it, and it allows coaches to go through that on their own schedule. There is this kind of a subscription to it, but it's so that coaches have some skin in the game, and that if they invest in it, they're investing in themselves, and they'll also go watch them and not just sit over there in their inbox.
That's great. In the modern world, like coaches, like you say, schedules all over the place, but they can access that and access some of that wisdom. I love how you're so passionate about speaking about marriage as well. I know you speak at different places and talk a lot about that as well, making sure the house is right. Love that. But there's a great quote on there which I wanted to dig into a little bit. You say, how does deeper connection equal higher performance? I wonder if you could just unpack that a little bit. I know you don't want to give away, all the things that are on there, but give us a little flavor, because you've definitely pricked my interest. So yeah.
No, that's in essence the tagline around Masterpiece Coaches, and that is what I've seen over the years, and it's only growing because of NIL and portal and all these things. We've become more and more transactional, and so here's what I know about college athletics, but just athletics in general, that you either offer greater rewards to motivate your kids, or you deepen relationships. If you're not able to get rewards, like we're not winning, or I can't give you enough money, then you better be deepening these relationships. But if they don't have either one of these, then rebellion's coming. They're going to leave, or there's going to be this coup in the locker room, if you will. They're going to turn on you. And we've got this world right now where we just think, well, let's just offer them more rewards. But if you don't offer them enough, they'll jump in the portal, or they'll leave, they'll transfer, they'll do whatever. And what I know is the deeper the relationship is with a coach, the more that young man may go, yeah, that may be appealing, or that may be more reward, but man, I sure would hate to leave my coach. But then the other part of that, when it talks about higher performance, I know this for sure. Kids play the hardest for the coaches they love the most. And so as we build relationships and deepen those relationships, you will see your players' performance because they want to please. We're all wired this way. We want to please the coach. Not just because we want to play. We want that, man, that was a good job. We want the coach to affirm us. And the more we have that relationship, and here's what that requires. This is what we challenge coaches with in Masterpiece, is that is going to require you as a coach to be vulnerable. Like, you've got to let them know you. If you want them to let you in, you got to let, that kind of deal. And so we help coaches do that in an easy way around those 8 H's and some other things. And then also we want to deepen a coach in areas of his life so that he'll be able to help those that he's coaching.
That's great. We usually ask at the end for a sports ministry tool to share with anyone doing sports ministry, but he's giving away the farm, Ben. I don't know. Can we ask that one?
Well, maybe
the 8 H's.
Yeah. There's been a lot of wisdom, but I don't know. Is there anything else for coaches you may want to share, Lance, with our people going on there?
Well, I mean, when you think about tools, I mean, there's a lot of great books out there. There's one book called The Bible. It's a really good tool.
Heard of that.
Yeah. And so, but that was kind of snarky and sarcastic. I'm sorry, guys. But like, no, there are some great tools. But I think, to me, I'm going to go back to that relationship piece. The greatest tool we have is human resource, and that is, outside the Bible and gospel, and obviously, but that relationship piece. And so, I'm big on even now. Like, I'm doing some things to make sure that I'm continuing to grow and develop myself. I'm not going to take people deeper than I've been swimming. And so I want to make sure I'm swimming in deep water. If I want people to swim in deep water, I got to be in that same deep water. And so I think that's probably, and then I am obviously, as you've heard, I'm like big on this relationship piece and how do you craft that? And if you're an introvert, which some in ministry are, and you have to push through that, how do you work with that? And how do you become more relational? Because the gospel I read, Jesus was very relational, and he spent time. He journeyed and walked and talked, and so I think that's our greatest tool. I don't know if that's the answer y'all were looking for, but that's what I would say.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I mean, just looking at God's word and doing ministry the way that Christ did it. I mean, yeah, you can't get much better than that. So I think really simple, really good stuff there. And yeah, I've been loving some of those quotes. I can't take people deeper than what you're swimming in. I nearly fell off my seat, Kyle, when I heard that. That's good right there. No, I appreciate it. Yeah.
I'll send y'all my my Venmo so that y'all can pay me for using those quotes. So
that's Ben.
Or I'll send it to Bob. I'm sure Bob will take care of it.
There you
That's
go.
Right.
Thank you. You heard it here, Rob.
Someone once told me though, Lance, there's no plagiarism in the kingdom of God, but that's
Yeah. My mentor says it this way: there's nothing stolen, only borrowed.
Oh, well, appreciate it. Thanks for showing your wisdom. Kyle agrees with you. The beard, brings the wisdom, but you've had rich life experience, sharing your journey with FCA, setting up your own ministries, WhoUWith Ministries, working with college athletes, and then setting up, Masterpiece Coaching as well. I think, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm sure there's a lot of people, I got a lot of it, and sure Kyle did as well, And our Sports Friends staff and coaches, I'm sure, and other listeners will appreciate that as well. So, yeah, thanks for giving up your time, and we'll look forward to staying in touch going forward.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Good stuff from Coach Lance.
Loved it.
I'm going to Americanize you. I'm going to Americanize you. Brother B is just one of the other pegs in that old wheel to get Ben to be a full-blown American.
Hey, tell you what, I've got a good accent. I won't do it now, but I can do that. Yeah,
please don't.
I'll ruin the podcast. No, there is a lot of good stuff in there. Some great wisdom, some great quotes. Mad Dog, some really good stuff.
Good stuff.
I love the. I often say.
Is this Wildman's Weekly Words?
There's a little bit of.
Are we queuing it up?
Nothing worthwhile is free, and he is asking coaches to invest. And he set up his online coaching platform. Which is something that I think is definitely worth looking at. The eight H's. You got them right, Carl. You focused. You had what was one of them?
I just got the one about the honeys. So my wife. So that's all I got.
There you go. But
my honey.
You can get people to invest in that, and he really can explain a lot more about those three things you talk about: investing, inspiring, and impacting as well. So he's done that. But we also have a virtual training platform, Carl.
We
as well,
do.
Right?
We do, Ben, and it's taken a long time for you to put this up and get it running. We do have an online. Why do we have it online, Ben? Most of our coaches are in Africa and Asia and South America.
Yeah, so we're 23 years old. For about 21 years, Sports Friends train people in person to start a church-centered sports ministry with a massive manual. Now, like you say, Carl, a lot of our coaches are in Africa and Southeast Asia, but more recently, we have expanded into different places. So North America, a little bit in Europe, and also other places. And of course, technology is expanded, so more people can go online. Lance shared about how he's got his online platform where coaches can go and pay for some of that wisdom that he shared. Now, ours is all around basically starting a church-centered sports ministry. And we've now released a platform called Pathright, where coaches can go on and they can go click through in their own time and kind of access some of our training. So it's a game changer, right, Mad Dog? And we have a video which gives us a little teaser. Should we watch the video?
Game changer.
For over 20 years, Sports Friends has been making disciples through sports. Across the street and around the world, our vision is to see a global movement of churches using sports to make disciples of Jesus Christ. Our mission is to equip churches and church planters to use sports to make disciples among young people, their families, and their communities. Our motivation is our conviction that no one should live and die without hearing God's good news. Traditionally, our training was done on the field and in person, but as times changed, so have we. We are now offering our entire training curriculum online. That's right, you now can discover how to use sports ministry to change your community and the world. We're calling it Sports Friends in a Box, our comprehensive resources, mentoring, and training. Our training materials are effective and proven to build a platform for your ministry. We provide training materials and mentors in multiple languages.
There you go. We've got great guests. We've got great people speaking. But at the same time, I think we've got good material as well. So, hey, why not?
There's some good things on it, right? There's the resources, and there's equipping, training, and there's some mentoring as well. So, those three things, they're all on Pathright. Rem, baby. Rem it up. So, really good stuff, Mad Dog. I think another great guest, lots of wisdom, and enjoy the humor as well. And, I'm interested around D12. That sounded pretty good around, sharing meal and stuff like that. And
Dirty dozen.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. I also love the phrase that stays. He also shared around 3 lies that every man buys. I thought that was quite interesting. I'm intrigued about that.
Okay, wait a second. Now I'm confused because you kind of tempted us. You kind of teased us with the beginning, but it wasn't Wildman's Weekly Words. Is that the one we're going with?
I think that, Lance brought so much today. He talked about look for the activity you've got, then join it. I always think do your best and God will do the rest. Do your best where he's at work.
Did he say that?
Yeah. He didn't say that, but that's a little bit of, wisdom.
Well, that's okay. That's right.
Yeah.
Lance, this is wild. Okay. I get it.
But I actually think that, Lance shared some brilliant stuff. So, maybe people want to go back and re-listen, or maybe go on and, or go and listen to other guests and, gleam from their wisdom and experience. Someone who's had a lot of wisdom and experience, over 30 plus years, 33 years of ministry experience. I think 30 minutes is not probably long enough to share a lot of stuff that he shared, but we're grateful for the time.
I mean, if anything like you or I, we would be pausing, taking notes, doing all this. I mean, thank thankfully, there are transcripts on YouTube. I don't know if Spotify or Apple Podcasts does the transcript. I doubt it, but you can get the transcript. You can copy. I mean, these kind of things exist for your benefit, people. This is a permanent record. This is probably going to go in a time capsule. That Already One podcast was such an impact on culture, on sports, ministry. I mean, it's going to go on forever. I can just see it.
It's going in the time capsule at the Already One University. Hey, woo!
Woo! Oh my goodness. Gotta get that registered.
There you go. But before that university is registered, Kyle, what do people have to do?
Well, we kind of talked about it. They got to tell their friends. Of course, to tell their friends. Maybe invite your parents. Ben, did you invite your mom and dad? They're listening.
They know.
But have they told their friends? Parents' friends?
Got to get them on, and we'll have to quiz them.
And what do we tell them? Is that we already...
Thanks again for joining us on Already One, a Sports Friends podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe on your